Raiders! It's Raiders Fan Radio, a podcast by Raiders fans for Raiders fans who are the only fans that matter. That's right, Murf and Sonny from the Dago Dungeon. You got it right here, live.
Touchdown! Kenny Stabler goes all the way.
We miss you, we love you, and we'll see you in the Hall of Fame.
When you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing. Just win, baby. I love this team. I think this team can win. I think this team can win.
Welcome into episode number 42. This could be the Carl Joseph episode of Raiders Fan Radio. I am your host, Sonny Dago. With me in studio, as always, is my third favorite cousin, Murf. Murf, how are you?
Hey, I feel the same way about you.
Hey, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, Sonny. You know, it's a good thing we got a talk show because there's, well, I was going to say there's never anything to talk about, but interesting week, huh?
I'm pretty pissed, Murf. In 23 minutes Pacific Standard Time, Episode 5 of Game of Thrones starts. And I just want all you listening to understand I am sacrificing not watching Episode 5 of Game of Thrones to record this episode of the podcast. So I hope you appreciate it. I do a lot, Murph. I do a lot.
You do a lot, and that is a huge sacrifice, much like the sacrifice that was made at the Red Wedding. Spoiler alert. My wife had never seen Game of Thrones, so we're watching Game of Thrones and we're going back through all the seasons. And last night we finished up season 3 with episode 9 and 10, which was the Red Wedding. And, I remember watching that when that happened and like feeling the look on my face. I was by myself when I was watching it, and I just remember like mouth agape watching what was going on. And so it was like right before it happened, of course, I look over at her and I'm watching her, and she was the same thing, mouth agape, like couldn't believe it, like just completely mortified that all the good guys die, all in like 3 minutes. Like, again, spoiler alert.
I did do one better. I had watched it before my wife did, and we rewatched it together. We watched up to, I think, season 5. Then we watched it all together last year. But during that episode, I filmed her. I set up my camera on my phone,
nice.
and I filmed her reaction. And she's like hiding the blanket over her face and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty good. Anyway, cool. Murph, but this is Raiders Fan Radio. This isn't Game of Thrones Fan Radio. The Raiders played a game last night. We have a lot to talk about regarding that game. So let's get into our topics. Right off the bat, we're going to jump into the Sea of Fans mailbag. We have our contest winner, our call-in contest winner. We got to announce that. He gets some free Raiders swag, courtesy of DeadPirateSports.com. We got some voicemails to listen to every game this year, including preseason, and all the playoff games and the Super Bowl game that the Raiders will play in. We're going to ask for predictions, score predictions. And Murph, we had 94 score predictions for yesterday's game.
Awesome.
That's a preseason game.
Awesome.
Pretty cool. 93 predicted one way. One predicted another way. And that one happened to be the winner. We'll get into that.
Ooh,
after that,
interesting.
Topic number 1. Obviously, we're going to talk about the game last night. And we're going to talk about the winners in the game and the losers in the game and regarding the players. Topic number 2, do the Raiders have a PR problem? You have Conley contradicting Reggie. You got the Penn holdout. Now you got this deal with Lynch. Now you and Jack Del Rio. Do the Raiders have a PR problem? Topic number 3, Murph's black hole of the internet. And topic number 4, we're going to talk about the Tennessee game, as we're going to be setting up, doing a live broadcast at the Tennessee game. We're going to give you a little bit of details as far as where we're going to be at and all that kind of stuff. So, right off the bat, Murph, let's jump into the Sea of Fans mailbag.
There he is, baiting, looking. He's under the gun. He's caught, he throws. It is. Oh, he caught it.
Nice. Excellent job, Murph. Excellent job. The contest winner, we had a call in for about 2 weeks where basically you just call into the show, 909-345-3346. You call in, and we were going to select a voicemail at random. And what ended up happening, though, was we had one call that was pretty intense, and we ended up choosing that one as the winner. And Murph, why don't you go ahead and play the call now before we announce the guy's name?
Hello, my name is Michael Conley. I'm the guy at the Raider Legs. 2010, I got osteomyelitis started in both of my feet, went up my legs. It kept getting worse and worse. And I had size holes, dollars, holes in my both feet. The surgeon and orthopedic surgeon in Southern California, Loma Linda, the orthopedic guy, he saved my life. He did surgery on both feet. And then the left one, it stayed up, but the right one, we had to take it off from the knee below. If I would have let it keep going up my legs, it would have went to my heart. He gave me 2 months. So I told him, let's take it off. And I love my Oakland Raiders. The Raiders are the Raiders. Mark Davis in Vegas. I can't wait to hear from you guys. You guys are awesome. God bless. I'd like to hear from you. Michael Conti. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So congratulations, Michael Conti. You are the winner of the calling contest. Living there out in Whittier, California. That's amazing, Murph. I mean, the guy lost his leg. And we posted a picture of it a couple of days ago saying the winner of the contest, we're giving a little bit of a hint. He has a Raiders prosthetic leg. Like, that is badass. Like, I'm like, oh, I want to get a new Raiders hat, or I want to get a new Raiders jersey. Like, Michael has a freaking Raiders leg. Like, that is hardcore, man. That is awesome. So I appreciate his phone call, and it was pretty cool, Hummer.
Yeah, it was very cool. You know, like we said, going into it, we were going to pick somebody at random, and we did have another random winner, and we'll get to that one in a second. We are going to send you out a consolation prize. But just when we heard Michael's, not only his message, but go to our Facebook page. It's Raiders Fan Radio on Facebook, and look for the picture there, and you'll see what we're talking about. And when he sent us, he sent it to us first in a private message that he had that prosthetic leg, and then was gracious enough to let us kind of share it, a little bit of his story. And when we saw that, I mean, that's just, you know, it's hard to argue with that as far as, you know, the whole premise of this was tell us why you love the Raiders and just to kind of demonstrate your fandom. And when you have that level of fandom, man, I'm telling you, that's just, there was no getting around not including him somehow in this. And then to top it off, and I'm sorry I don't have her name here, and we'll see if we can find it before the show's over, because we definitely want to acknowledge this lady as well. We had a lady that posted a picture of her prosthetic leg. Yeah. That the lining of it had Raiders. Instead of Michael's is a black leg with the Raiders shield on the shin. Hers was like the lining, like the padded lining inside the leg had the Raiders logos and the Raiders word inside that. But I mean, like, this is amazing. Like, it never ceases to amaze me, the amazing things that people do with their fandom, and to take something as challenging and as threatening and as ominous as losing a limb, and then to spin that in a positive way and around your favorite football team. We can't applaud you enough, man. That's awesome. That is the epitome of fandom right there. That's great stuff.
I believe her name is Michelle Manici. Manicci. Michelle Manici, maybe. Yeah, she's the one with the on the inside of the leg, and it's a promise to her mom that she only tagged the inside of her leg. So who knew? I didn't know there was an industry for Raider prosthetic legs. That's kind of cool that to have such a life-altering thing happen to you. In fact, Murph, I just had a friend. He's in a motorcycle club, and he was hit. Big wreck up here in Oregon. Huge. Like two or three guys died, I think. He lost his leg, and he's now having to get a prosthetic. And he's not a Raiders fan, but I'm going to try to encourage him to become one to maybe get another leg too. So that's pretty cool. So again, Michael Conte, man, first of all, you're a survivor for what you've gone through, for what you have had to go through, man. So props on that, brother. That's encouraging. And at the same time, man, your faith in the Raiders is awesome. So congratulations. You are the winner of a $25 gift card to deadpiratsports.com, as well as a swag bag that I believe is valued at over, I think like $75 to $100 or something like that. So we already contacted you, and we got your information, and we'll be sending you out your stuff here very soon. Murph, was there other calls, other voicemails we wanted to play for that or no?
Yeah, I got one more, and this is Erica Jones, I believe, and is her last name. And Erica, if you're listening, reach back out to us and let us know you heard us, and we'll try to contact you as well. But you were the one that were chosen, so we, in fairness to you and your call in and submission for the prize pack, we're going to send you a Raiders Fan Radio T-shirt. So we'll have that coming to you shortly. And here's Erica's call.
Hi, my name is Erica, and I am a fan of yours on Facebook, and there is, I guess, a contest going that you call and tell why you love the Raiders to be entered to win a prize pack. I guess my biggest reason for loving the Raiders is no matter how hard things get, they still try. They give it their all. We have the best fans in the world. We are the most dedicated, loyal fans. I love their emblem, their color. I used to wear my dad's Raiders jackets from the time I was little until I got older. I have Raiders all over my apartment. I've always loved them. I've loved the players. They're great. The team just never gives up. So I guess you can reach me on Facebook, or if you need to call me back, or look me up on Facebook under Erica Jones. Thank you. Bye.
Appreciate the phone call, Erica. And again, Murph, the fandom going back to her father, as many times it does. It always goes back to a parent that instilled it in you and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. So, Erica, I appreciate you calling in, and we'll be sending you out a free Raiders shirt, Raiders Fan Radio shirt.
Yes.
All right, moving on. So we did a score prediction contest, Murph, and what this is going to be is every game this year, I'll post it up, or Murph will post it up on our Raiders Fan Radio pages there. And we're just asking what's this prediction of the score, or score prediction for the game. And like I said earlier, we had 94 entries. We'll see if we can break 100 for the next game. 94 entries, Murph. 93 of them predicted the Raiders to win.
As they should.
As they should.
But it is the preseason, and the wonkiest stuff happens in the preseason, does it not?
One poster predicted the Raiders to lose. So it was kind of funny. So he posts it up, right? And I'm like, his name's Shane. I go, Shane? And then got a couple laughs and stuff like that, you know. And then it ended up winning and stuff, you know. So Shane Davis out of Dickinson, North Dakota. His prediction was 28-17. The Cardinals.
Pretty close.
The score was 2010, yeah. So I thought it was pretty close. So congratulations, Shane. It's kind of like bittersweet, like curse you, Shane. You cost us the game because your score prediction. But congratulations, you won. So you don't get any cool swag. You just get props on the show for predicting the score. So I don't know. Maybe we'll start sending out stickers or something like that, you know. We'll do something. So for now, Shane Davis out of Dickinson, North Dakota. Congratulations. You predicted the score. You thought the Raiders were going to lose, and you were correct. So if any of you are angry the Raiders lost or need someone to take it out on, Shane Davis out of Dickinson, North Dakota.
Well, and you know what's funny, though, is that, and I get it if he gets a little little bit of a hard time from Raider Nation for picking the Raiders to lose. But you know what the Raiders losing have in common with the Cowboys, Falcons, Patriots, Saints, Chiefs, and Titans yesterday?
They all lost.
They all lost. It doesn't freaking matter. You remember the year when we were 4-0 in the preseason and Warren Sapp was on NFL Network telling everybody that, we're developing a culture of winning around here. Yeah, 4 wins later for the whole season. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, folks.
Preseason doesn't mean nothing. Anyway, so let's talk about the preseason game last night, Murph. But first, whoa. I know. But first, what?
Well, we had another voicemail to play.
Oh, we did? Okay, my bad.
Yeah, we got one more voicemail to play. This comes from Greg, coincidentally enough, here in Tennessee.
Hey, Sonny and Murf. This is Greg Peters from Eagleville, Tennessee. Love your all show. You guys are hilarious. Feel like I know you. Hey, I wanted to ask you a question. Who would win? I love me some old school Tecmo Bowl back in the day. The Raiders, man, Marcus Allen, Bo Jackson. Who would win that 1991 Raiders team in Tecmo Bowl or this year's Raiders team in Tecmo Bowl? I mean, we got a better quarterback this year, Derek Carr, than Jay Schrader. Our backs maybe not quite as good as the ultimate duo, Bo Jackson, Marcus Allen. We had Tim Brown back then, but anyway, I just want to know, like, if they made a Tecmo Bowl today, which team would you take? I'll hang up and listen.
Okay, first of all, Greg, that's the best question we've ever had on this show. Hands down. Right? Hands freaking down, the best question we've ever had. I love Tecmo Bowl. The only thing I love more than Tecmo Bowl, Murph, is Super Tecmo Bowl, right? I don't think Greg knows. We've been running we ran a Madden league for 5 years. Like, we love online football games and stuff. So, but to get back to the question, that's a slam dunk answer, Murph. 91, that team dominates everything for one simple reason. Bo Jackson. There's nothing you can do to stop him.
Well, unless you have Lawrence Taylor and you're playing with the Giants. Because there was
maybe. But it wasn't a guaranteed you could stop him with LT. You couldn't. It wasn't guaranteed.
No, it wasn't guaranteed. But he was the Bo Jackson on the defensive side of the ball. And that that would have been the only thing. Yeah, other than that, I agree with you. It's a slam dunk. Now,
and even if you picked the defense to counter, he could still run around it. He was so good, dude.
Yeah,
that was ridiculous.
And so Marshawn and Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington, they're not going to do that. They wouldn't have the top end speed, right? And that's what Bo had. He had the trucking, which maybe Marshawn has that trucking ability, but the top end speed, you can't. It's not even close. And so I'm with you. I think that it's by far that team. But now, if we put a spin on it, though, and as you mentioned, we are huge Madden guys as well. If it was Madden, it'd be this year's team in Madden. It would be this year's team because of the Jay Schrader effect. Now, granted, Timmy Brown would be better than Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree, but quarterback is not even close. I mean, Derek Carr is leaps and bounds better than what Jay Schrader was, and that and what the offensive line and everything else that the Raiders have going for them. This year's team is way better in Madden than that. If there would have been a throwback version of the game still, then if you would have taken those old Madden players and put them in. You just think about like who was the safeties then, like Eddie Anderson, and I'm trying to think of some of the players from back then. That it wouldn't even been close. This year's team is way, way better. I mean, Khalil Mack, come on.
Do you know, Murph, that there are still people who play Tecmo Bowl, and there's actually tournaments that happen and like online ranking systems that happen for Tecmo Bowl?
That's fascinating to me that people still do that. I think it's really, really cool, but I mean, and it's fun. Like every once in a while, it'll be fun to like go back and like play that stuff, and I still like it. But it's so, I mean, it's just so one dimensional that it's I don't. And apparently, they do all kinds of stuff where they update like the players' attributes.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Like,
Tell me,
yeah, God bless them.
It's a big deal. Anyway, Greg, if you play Madden by chance, me and Murph, we play on the Xbox One. My gamer tag is Consigliere Salt. Murph is his Coach Murph 45. Is that what yours is?
Yeah, 45.
Coach Murph 45, and maybe we'll post it up on the show later on the Facebook page. But hey, it's Madden season. Madden comes out, I believe, 1 week or week and a half until early release, and I'll be having access to that. Me and Murph both play in a league, played in the leagues for years, but we're always looking for guys to play online games with and stuff like that. We don't like the cheese. If you're going to call 4 verts every single time, don't bother playing us. We want to actually play football and not just online cheese fest and stuff like that. So this goes to anybody out there. If you are on the Xbox One, and you play Madden, hit us up, Consigliere Salt, and then Coach Murph 45. We would love to play with you. And, of course, we're going to choose the Raiders, and you have to choose another team. Or you can be the white jerseys, I guess you could say.
Or you can be the white jersey Raiders, yeah.
All right, Uncle Mosh, where can they find out more about our show?
Hey, boys and girls, this is Uncle Mosh. That's right. Somebody actually claims Sonny and Murf. These two. Check them out on their website, RaidersFanRadio.com. You can friend them on Facebook at RaidersFanRadio, or you can like their fan page at RaidersFanRadio Podcast. Hey, I don't tweet. I don't even know how to use a Twitter, but they do. You can tweet them at RaidersFanRadio. Call them. Leave a voicemail if you want. Go old school. 909-345-3346. That's 909-345-3346. Hey, do this. Please subscribe and rate Raiders Fan Radio on iTunes. You can listen to the show on all podcast services like Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast Addict, and many, many more. Okay, am I done? Did I say all the stuff I was supposed to say? All right, I'm out of here.
All right, football is back for our beloved silver and black. The Raiders played the Cardinals last night, lost 20-10. But in all reality, it's preseason. The game doesn't matter at all. The score of the game doesn't matter at all. However, Murph, within about 5 minutes of watching the game, I was instantly thrown back into angry, pissed off, heart attack mode, watching none other than stupid-ass, sorry for cussing, stupid butt Carson Palmer drive down the field. We stopped him to a field goal, but then we had a penalty, and then it got a touchdown, and Reggie Nelson was out of place, and all of a sudden I'm thrust back 8 months earlier, and I'm like, oh, great. It's Raiders season again.
It's Raiders season.
So I wanted to break it down, though. Let's talk about the winners and losers of the game. And, again, we're not analysts, but we love football, so this is what we talk about. We've been talking for, 9 months now, out of season, right, or 8 months. It's going to be weird talking about the game again and stuff.
I know.
So this will be kind of fun. So we're going to do winners and losers from yesterday's game. The first winner I have, Murph, is Carl Joseph. There was a couple plays where this guy came down and just stuck people. I believe one of the hits was on David Johnson himself, who is a great running back. But I loved the way Carl Joseph would explode to the ball and give us that extra kind of eighth man in the box for the run defense. And last year it was hit and miss with him because he was injured and stuff, So I don't think we really got a good take of who this guy really was. But last night, man, this guy seemed like he was all over the place, right? He had 3 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, and 2 solo tackles. So he didn't have a lot, but the times he did, it was awesome. And I'm looking forward to this guy coming down. It was like he's a little torpedo, just getting shot out and coming down and stuff in the run. That's going to help the run game in a big way, I think, Murph.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it on the head, that he arrives at the ball carrier quickly and violently. And that's what we've missed for a long, long time, right? Is that we haven't had anybody that, I'm even trying to think back. We've had some decent safeties, but never anybody that could come up and be a thumper like that. And I think that that's what we were all expecting when the Raiders drafted him where they did. And so, yeah, now we're finally starting to see it. We've mentioned before that it's tough to evaluate a player when they're playing through injury. And when you have the kind of injury that he did, at West Virginia, that he maybe wasn't all the way back, that he was, physically back, but maybe not mentally all the way back. Maybe there was still a little couple things that were tweaks or whatever that were still needed to be worked out and for him to recover from. And clearly, based on the small sample size of last night, but clearly, if that's any indicator of what the rest of the season is going to be like for him, we are in for a treat, bud. It's going to be awesome having somebody like that to do exactly what you're saying. to come up and play at the line of scrimmage like that and with that kind of ferocity, man. That's good stuff.
So that was my first. Murph, who's one of your winners from last night's game?
It was kind of hard to evaluate the offense because unless you count Clive Walford, was he number one on the depth chart? I don't remember. Wasn't that Lee Smith and everybody freaked out? Sorry. If you're ever wondering if the depth chart means anything, the answer to that is no. Okay, so last night Clive Walford, I thought, had a pretty good game. Now he ran with the ones, but there wasn't any ones on the field. And when you looked at the first series and really the rest of the game, at no point was there any, quote, starters on the field. None of the offensive linemen, none of the wide receivers, certainly not the quarterback and not the tight end. But that said, I thought Walford had a pretty good game. He caught a couple of, I don't even know what his stats were on the game, but I do remember.
3 catches, 3 targets, 44 yards. Longest was 30, average of 14.7 yards per catch.
There you go. Now 30-yarder is the one that stuck out to me, and I thought that was a pretty solid performance considering that they were going against the Cardinals ones on defense, and they got a pretty good defense. That's a pretty solid defense there in Arizona, and so I thought he had a pretty decent game. So good for him.
Another guy I thought had a great game was E.J. Manuel. Or yes. Manuel, however you want to say his name. Rumors before this game is that he's happy again. He's excited again. And why wouldn't you be? You just left Buffalo. Now you're with the Raiders. Bills Mafia. Get the hell out of here with that crap, right? So, of course, he's in a much better spot with the Raiders. He was 10 for 12, 107 yards, average of 8.9 with the 103.8 quarterback rating. Didn't do anything great, but he was consistent and made some plays, I thought. And I couldn't help, Murph, but just think to what would have happened if we would have had E.J. Manuel for the game against the Broncos last season, in the final week of the season, and then against the Texans, right? If we would have had a quality backup, how much different would that have been? And if anything else, maybe, last season was kind of a blessing that it maybe made us go out and get a quality backup like EJ, because watching last night's game, not that you'd ever wish this again, but if for whatever reason Carr couldn't go, with the ones around him, I'm confident that EJ could get us some victories just off of last night. When you compare him to Connor Cook, now obviously Connor Cook is playing with the 3s and 4s and whoever else. Connor was 10 for 21, 82 yards, 3.9 average, and only a 58 quarterback rating. EJ just looked more poised, more fluid. His passes were more crisp, and that is also without the offensive line. I don't think any one of the offensive line day one starters of the regular season played last night. So this is with a backup offensive line, no Crabtree, no Cooper, but he still had a great game, and no Lynch as well. And so, man, just having a quality backup, it's kind of a sigh of relief. It sucks we had to learn it the hard way, but now moving forward, it's nice to know you have a guy back there who has that capability.
Yeah, he looked decisive. When you think about, we as fans love the flashy stuff. We love the deep downfield passes. We love the touch passes over the middle and all that. But really, quarterbacks make their money on the out routes and you know what I mean? Like those passes that got to travel a long distance but don't go for a lot of northern yards. They typically, and I'm thinking back to there was a throw that he made to Seth Roberts during that game where it wasn't a big gainer, if at all, but it was on the money and he was decisive. He just, like you said, he looked more fluid. He looked confident. He doesn't look like a rookie, which is what Connor Cook looked like last year. And so that's exactly what we needed. And I think that was an excellent showing for him. And yes, I would, if we had to pick a quarterback today, I would say that he is going to be the backup for the Raiders. And then what do you do with Cook? Do you carry 3 quarterbacks? I don't know. I mean, you carry 2 or, and then
I like Cook. I think he has potential. I just don't think he's ready quite yet. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I don't think he's ready quite yet, but that's what I'm saying. What do you do with him then? Is that, do you let him hang around because he's taking a roster spot, and do you want your 4th round pick to take a roster spot and to keep somebody else from getting on the field if it comes down to an Elijah Hood or if it comes down to a Breon Borders or whatever, then this is where Reggie's going to make his money, right? So is figuring this kind of stuff out. So, I mean, it's not unheard of to carry 3 quarterbacks, but it's also becoming a lot more popular to carry 2 and then put your third guy on the practice squad. So we'll see. I'll leave the softball last to you as far as winners go, but I do want to bring up one other one that, oddly enough, I thought Marshall Newhouse did a pretty good job. Now, this could be in contrast to one of my losers, who is Vigdal Alexander, who got owned. So all you people that are out there that are like, oh, well, Vigdal Alexander looks great in camp. Yeah, camp. Put him up against Chandler Jones and see what happens. He got punked, okay? But Marshall Newhouse, one of the few bright spots. There was a couple of times where the offensive line allowed some pretty aggressive sacks. And when you look at the pass rush, all the pass rushers except for one got in, and that was the guy that was on Marshall Newhouse. So I think that was encouraging. That could, much like a backup quarterback, is this somebody that, should this Penn BS drag on into the regular season, is there somebody that's capable enough for us to roll out there week 1 against Tennessee and take on Brian Arakpo? Yes, I think that's a possibility. Is that something you want to rest on for the rest of the year and in the future going forward? No, absolutely not. And make no mistake about it, the Raiders are going to address the tackle position, I would assume, more so this offseason upcoming with the draft or whatever. But that said, for right now, Marshall Newhouse, pretty good job against a pretty good pass rush last night, and the starting pass rush and pass rushers for the Arizona Cardinals.
Eddie Vander Does he have it? I believe he does. He only recorded 1 tackle last night, but what I noticed was that he was disruptive. He was drawing double teams. Yes. He was pushing their offensive line backwards, and he was making waves. And
Did you see him spin moves?
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah.
That was solid.
He disrupted their offensive line, and I think that's what you want. This guy's not going to be pushing up the stat sheet, right? That's from Mack and Irvin on the outside. He's going to be the fat hog in the middle, clogging up the lane, disrupting the inside runs, the inside zone runs, and drawing a double team. So then you send Irvin and Mack on the outside. Like, I kind of think, I know it's early still. It's just 1 game, but I loved what we saw from Eddie. He's 305. But he can spin it, he's good, dude. And I think the hype is legit on Eddie. I was pleasantly surprised, especially after suffering through Dan Williams for the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. Because again, you hear the camp hype, but how does that translate when they get on the field? And dude, in that spin move, I mean, he set that thing up and pulled it off a few times like he's damn Dwight Freeney out there. I'm like, look at this guy. Look at this big fat guy out there doing pirouettes. I'm like, this is great. So yeah, man, that was very encouraging. And yeah, I got nothing else to say. You detailed it perfectly. You move the pocket and create disruption. Pull double teams, right? He was pulling those double teams and getting those edge rushers free, man. That's what it's all about.
Couple of notables I want to mention, too, that stood out to me. Corey James, I believe he outplayed Marquell Lee.
Yeah.
Corey James was all over the place. He had 7 tackles, 7 solo tackles, 1 quarterback hit. I mean, he drilled, I think it was Drew Stanton at one point on a blitz, just creamed him.
Hey, did you see that one play? Well, of course you did. You watched the game, but the one play I thought that showed what he's capable of very well, and I don't remember when it was, but there was, a lot of times those inside backers get a little impatient and they kind of get sucked into the trash inside and they get caught up and they're not able to bounce out to make plays. One of the things that I thought that he did really well last night was scraping the line of scrimmage, where they kind of move laterally across the line of scrimmage and then attack. And that was really cool to see him do that, because so many times you see young guys, they just get caught up in that, and again, that mess of humanity in the middle, and they can't get free to go make a play. He didn't do that at all. He was sliding and attacking, and that was awesome.
I thought he was good. I thought Shalom Luwani looked really good. He almost had an interception there in the end zone.
Nice play.
Had a couple other plays. He just kind of seemed like he was kind of at the ball a lot. I thought he played well. I thought LaTroy Lewis to be honest with you, I couldn't even tell you if that guy was on the team prior to this game. He had 2 sacks, dude. 2 sacks. That was awesome, right? Thought he had a great game. And, I thought overall defense played maybe a little better than the offense just because the offense wouldn't have the offensive line there. I mean, we couldn't score, so that kind of stunk. I thought the biggest winner, though, Murph, was the team itself. No major injuries.
Yes.
And we're looking around the league. We're seeing guys falling left and right. A lot of them are ACL tears. Knock on wood, whatever we got to do. Getting out of the game with no major injuries, that was the biggest winner, I thought, of all. Jumping over to the other side, the losers of last night. Murph, the Raiders have a $9.25 million problem in Sean Smith. How fitting was it? The very first pass play of the game, it's a penalty on Sean Smith. That guy bites harder on a double move than a senior does on drunk freshman girls, right? That guy is the worst, dude. I don't know if this guy just got like complacent. I mean, wasn't he a stud in Miami and then in KC? And all of a sudden it's like this guy's, if he was in Madden, his win went from a 90 to like a 65. Like, what is the deal with this guy? Is it? I'm starting to think it's probably psychological, right? After last season, not doing very good, and then hearing all this stuff now, it's like, what are we gonna do with Sean Smith? He's a freaking liability, dude. And if we trade him, I think it's only like a $4 million cap hit, but we can't cut him because we owe him $9.25 million. I think there's an extra $250,000 in there for working out, which I'm sure he already has. So as of right now, he's $9.25 million, and he flat out sucks. He's a liability for us at this point in time. I don't know what to do with the guy. What do you do if you're Del Rio?
Well, I think you got to get him in a position where he can play more so off of the receiver, and that's a question for Ted. And we'll get Ted back on here in the next week or two, and we're going to ask him. But I think that you give some distance between the defender and the receiver, and there's less of an opportunity for them to get juked out of their shorts, which is what Sean Smith seems to do on every pass play. That one double move, that one slow-go route, that slant and go, that was, I don't remember who the receiver was, but I mean, my goodness. And thankfully, the Cardinals quarterback, I don't remember if it was Stanton or if it was Palmer at the time, whoever just missed him. I mean, it was just a terrible pass. But if that wasn't, I mean, if that's most quarterbacks in the NFL, that's a touchdown. And because he just freaking, he just bit, like you said, he just came up and he bit on the fake, and there was no help over the top. And so you can't do things like that when you don't have any help over the top. When you're man-to-man coverage, you gotta take a step back and follow the hips and stay with your guy. You can't I don't know what he was doing. I don't know. I mean, there's a fine line between anticipation and getting faked out of your face, right? I mean, like, and so you want these guys to be aggressive and you want them to anticipate, but man, when you guess wrong, there's only you to look at. So I don't know, Sonny. I mean, I asked the question to Scott about whether we could move him to safety or not, and he said that would be way too much money to pay a safety. And while I agree with that sentiment, like you said, it's too much money to also pay a third or fourth string cornerback. And, I look at it like, if you're running a business, is it better to, have inventory sitting on the floor or put it to use, right? Like right now he's dead money. Like, so are you going to pay a guy to sit on the bench as a cornerback, or are you going to put him in the game in situationally to play safety where he could maybe bring some benefit to the team? I don't know. I don't know, because outside of that, I don't know what you do with him. But I will say this: a Gary and Conley pick looks better and better and better the more along we go.
Well, easy. We'll get into that.
We'll get into that.
But you don't play either. Yeah, well, I mean, his stock's rising simply because we haven't seen him, and Sean Smith looks awful.
How about this then? The idea of drafting a corner with the number one pick looks better.
Correct.
And better
Yeah,
and better.
exactly.
How about that?
I agree there. Sticking to the secondary, Reggie Nelson. I believe he's a liability as well. And two things point this out to me. On the touchdown pass that Palmer threw, It was against Amerson. The guy basically did an inside route, ran a 10-yard in or whatever, how far out he was. Nelson was cheating all the way to the right side. Now, this may have been the design, but he was so late coming across the middle that there was nothing Amerson could have done, right? The receiver just played against Amerson's body and had a half a step, and that's all you need in the NFL, And so, but again, you see, and as soon as he caught the ball, here comes Nelson flying in late. There was another play.
Trying to jar the ball loose.
Yeah, there was another play. I believe it was before the touchdown, or it might have been on the second. No, I think it was before because it was Palmer, where he overthrew. I want to say it was J.J. Nelson.
The one where he was wide open downfield?
Wide open. And T.J. Carey came flying in. But if you noticed before the play, the guy ran by Nelson, who went with somebody else, and left the middle of the field wide freaking open. So, again, just like Conley's stock is rising because Sean Smith is going down, maybe Obi's stock is rising because Nelson's stock's going down. I don't know, but I got to think you bring in Pagano, you still got Norton. It's got to be more than a scheme thing nowadays, right? And yesterday, it's vanilla defense. We know that. But still, the Cardinals defense wasn't giving up stuff like that. So it's more than just a scheme thing. I think it's player personnel, man. Nelson is a liability. I don't know if he's old. I don't know if he's lost his step. I don't know if he's out of touch. Maybe he doesn't get the Raiders' system. But he's a liability out there as well. And when you have him and Smith out there, I'm scared, Murph. I'm scared for those guys. So I don't know what we're going to do with those two dudes.
Your buddy Travis Johansson-Carey got in the game awful quick, didn't he? I mean, once Sean Smith started being Sean Smith, and like you said, Reggie was having problems, Carey got in, and Carey actually – I know we've already covered our winners, but he actually had a pretty decent game too. I mean, there was that one blitz play where, Stanton made an amazing play
right?
stepping up in the pocket. But, you like to think that if that's Charles Woodson, that, that quarterback's getting annihilated.
Didn't that remind you, though, of Woodson's blitz off the edge? I mean, that was cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, so I agree with you. Reggie's a liability. But didn't we kind of know that? I mean, what is he, 36, 37? I mean, we kind of knew that when we got him, he was a stopgap in between Charles Woodson and the next crop of safeties that we had coming in. We kind of knew that. And I think that if our day one starters are not going to be Carl Joseph and Obi Melifonwu, but we're not far from it. Like, I think there is a world where those are our two starters by the time we get to week 15. I mean, right? I mean, don't you, if they play like even a little bit to their, to their, I don't want to say hype, but to their potential, right? Because we know Joseph will. We know, so if we can get Obi at least halfway there, or close to it, if we see some production out of him and the other corners are holding up, right? Because that also is a big thing, is that those guys all got to work together, and it's. A lot of times getting caught out of place is because the guy in front of you didn't make the right read or the right play, right? Didn't follow the same zone or whatever. So that's a lot of it too. But as long as, all those things being true or potential, don't you think that those could be our two starters?
I think so. I mean, I would hope so. And that's why you got them. I don't see why they wouldn't be if they can at least play halfway decent. I mean, Sean Smith looks awful.
He looks awful.
That guy looks awful.
Yeah.
And Reggie Nelson looks like he's just out of touch. And so if Obi and Conley can come in, and I guess the biggest thing would be how quickly can they grasp the system and grasp the coverages and grasp the assignments and grasp what they're supposed to do, what their role is on a cover 3, cover 4, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think the job is theirs if they can step up. Much like we've seen Eddie step up last night, and then the job is his if he steps up and he looks like a day one starter. I think Obi and Conley have that same opportunity. And you've heard Del Rio, he always says he wants competition. That's what they want at camp, is competition. Well, in my eyes, there's no competition with Sean Smith and Reggie Nelson. Only maybe their names. I mean, they're awful. They're freaking awful. And last night on Twitter, I mean, they were getting the Raiders defense was getting ripped apart, man. Middlecoff, who got fired from 95.7 the game, he hates the Raiders. He was having a field day, and to a certain degree, he was speaking truth. Looks awful. One game, one preseason game, but the Raiders secondary did not look good.
Well, I'm of the opinion that if you're gonna lose, or if you're gonna give up plays, give them up with the younger guys because they can develop and learn. And so, I think Conley's almost a given at this point, assuming he is healthy. But I think Obi and Joseph, those are the ones that I think that I didn't expect going into this, that I figured, Reggie was going to be the guy. But you're right that based on last night, I don't think so. I think it's going to be Obi. And I think it's very possible that we could have both of our first and second round picks as starters this year. And then here we have second year man, Carl Joseph. I mean, it's kind of like a poor man's Legion of Boom right now. Like we're starting, you know what I mean? Listen, I'm in no way comparing the two, save the posts and the tweets, please. But what I'm saying though, is that is what we're building towards. Like, and you would, like you have Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas complement each other in their skill sets. That's kind of what Obi and Carl Joseph would do, right? Is they would complement each other's skill sets, that you have a true free and a true strong safety. Like I think it's kind of setting up to be a really good deal for us. So hopefully that's what we'll see. So way to take a negative and turn it positive. But as of right now, yeah, it's just a negative. And he was definitely a loser last night.
I thought another guy, Marquel Lee. I put him on a loser because I felt he had the opportunity to cement himself as a starting linebacker, a starting middle linebacker. I don't think he did enough. In fact, at some points he just looked not ready for this level of play.
Like a fifth-round pick?
Yeah. His angles weren't there. He wasn't sniffing the ball. Now, granted, he did have a fumble recovery. But if you watch what happened on that play before the fumble recovery, that guy got ran 10 yards off the ball. I believe it was by the guard. He just got pushed back. So he happened to be right place, right time to get the fumble recovery, but it was a bad location because he was 10 yards off the friggin' ball. So I thought he could have done better. I don't think he did enough maybe to lose his opportunity to compete for that job, but I certainly don't think he did enough to cement himself as having that job. If anybody cemented themselves, it was Corey James, as I think he flat out outplayed Mark Weldy.
Yeah, I think that one fortunate play, and like you said, it was only fortunate because it went so bad to begin with. So, yeah, not really impressed, but frankly, this is what I expected out of him. I mean, he's a fifth-round pick, and this is why I still can't wrap my brain around why the Raiders have been so complacent, or why Reggie has been so complacent with addressing the position of inside linebacker. And I had my wild speculation about Jelani Jenkins, and we'll see where that goes because he didn't play last night. But Marquel Lee got abused in coverage, which is what we're used to, right? Like this whole thing going into this offseason was the Raiders need linebackers that can cover because our guys can't cover. Well, guess what? Now we got another linebacker that can't cover. Like, I mean, what, Ray Armstrong couldn't go out and play like Marquel Lee did last night? Like, give me a break, man. Like, so, and that's where Jelani Jenkins can. So, those times that, again, it's hard to pinpoint because the defense, like you said, was so vanilla. And there was plenty of times that these guys were matched up with players on the offense that they had no business matching up with. You saw Calhoun had to kick out a couple times and cover a wideout or cover a slot anyways. You saw times where Marquel Lee had to come out and he was matched up with Andre Ellington a whole bunch last night. And that was that's not his strength, right? We can't cover the backs and we can't cover those slot receivers where that's what Obi Melifonwu does. That's what Jelani Jenkins does. That's what these guys do. And since they weren't in the game, the kind of responsibility fell on Lee. And I'm with you that this would have been a great opportunity for him to show us and the rest of the world that he could do that, but he clearly doesn't. So hopefully the players that the Raiders didn't have an opportunity to play and for us to see last night can address that. If they can't, we are in big ass trouble when we play the likes of Jamal Charles. And I mean, it's just going to get ugly when we got to start trying to cover, tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. I mean, it's going to be brutal.
And again, one game, One preseason game. But there are some stuff that showed. The other guy that I thought could have cemented himself, but really didn't, was Breon Borders. He was getting a lot of hype coming out of camp. He, again, kind of like Lee, didn't necessarily have a bad game, but just didn't do enough to be like, oh man, Breon Borders is a stud and stuff like that. He was there. He had a couple. He didn't get like burned, but he didn't like just do anything to stand out and cement himself as like, okay, maybe it could be Emerson and Conley and Borders, or Emerson, Conley, Carey, and Borders, or something like that. So again, with the stuff with Sean Smith going down, I thought Borders had a chance to really step up and make him more than just a camp darling. He could have actually been a guy, but I don't think that happened. So that's all I got for the losers. Anybody else, Murph, on your side?
Yeah, Vidal Alexander. We heard that name a couple of times during camp, that he was looking good and blah, blah, blah. Man, none of them look good. I mean, and he's the easy one to pick on because he was going out there and lining up at that outside tackle spot. And so, it's, again, easy to pick on him. But Denver Kirkland, none of these guys I thought looked good at all. And listen, it was all of our backup offensive linemen. So, no harm, no foul. I mean, I don't even think Feliciano got in there and played much. It was the depth of our the depth of our depth chart. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's getting late, but you know what I'm trying to say. It was the lower end of our team, and these are guys that frankly aren't going to probably be playing in the regular season very much anyway. So hard to pin it all on Vidal Alexander, but he certainly didn't do himself any favors. One last positive thing though that I do want to say before we check out, it has nothing to do with on the field play, other than the fact that Cordell Patterson looks good in a Raider uniform.
Look good.
He's a big dude, man. I mean, we've been watching him play for however long. Heck, I remember watching him play at UT, and then of course with the Vikings. But there's just, I don't know if it was because of just the white jersey and the silver and black and all that. He just looks good. He just looks big, and for that big of a guy to be that fast, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, he. I guess you could say he was a winner. I mean, he looked good. I felt like EJ was comfortable throwing him the ball. We all know Brady got Cooks in the offseason, and we've been hearing that Cooks is tearing it up at training camp. And for me, that's cool. I watched him play at Oregon State. But we got Cordell. And when you put him alongside with Cooper and Crabtree, Carr has some new weapons too. So this is going to be interesting. I mean, this could be a passing offense like we haven't seen in years. This could be back, all of the early 2000s with Gannon and James Jett and those guys and stuff, This could be really, really fun to watch. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think, yeah, that's I can't wait to play with him in Madden. There's weapons galore, man. Absolutely. I think Patterson, just think of the options. Last night, running with Seth Roberts and Patterson, I'm like, man, those are pretty legit wideouts, and they're our third and fourth wide receivers. You know what I mean? That's pretty awesome. And then you get, Mickens, okay. There's a couple with that KJ Brandt. There's a couple of decent players, but the fact that Roberts, a now healthy Roberts, right? Because apparently he had a freaking hernia last year. Unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly.
So now a healthy Seth Roberts, which if he could be as clutch as he was last year, hurt, and now he can be healthy. Yeah, I think that we got plenty of weapons on offense. Now we just got to get the defense figured out. And Sonny, we're going to win probably 14 games, huh?
I misspoke. Not James Jett. I meant Johnny Lee Higgins. Wasn't it Johnny Lee Higgins?
No. You're thinking of James Jett, but it was James Jett. It was Jerry Porter. It was Tim Brown, Jerry Rice, of course. Those guys.
I got my mind in Game of Thrones, Murph. We got to get moving here. Moving on.
Raiders fans, you want to be a Raiders fan? You know somebody that wants to be a Raiders fan? Let me tell you, the first thing you need to do is get some Raiders swag. You can get your Raiders swag from Raider Jeff. He owns Dead deadpiratesports.com. And right now he's having a monster of an event. You buy a jersey, you get a free 3x5 flag. You get them both for $49.50. You got all your current favorite players in authentic Nike jerseys. We're talking about people like Khalil Mack, Derek Carr, Marshawn Lynch, Amari Cooper, Sebastian Janikowski, Michael Crabtree, Bruce Irvin, and even that little favorite of ours, the punter, Marquette King. They even have legends. They got Howie Long and Charles Woodson. You can get them, and you get your choice when you order of one of 5 Raider flags, including Raider Nation and the One Nation American flag. Check out deadpiratesports.com. Woo!
Murph, do the Raiders have a PR problem?
Oh, boy.
I'm going to go through and reference about 3 different topics, and then we'll kind of circle back around. Starting off, we'll start with Penn. The issue that came out with Penn is that he stated he was holding out. I think it was McKenzie or somebody came out with the Raiders and stated the first time they heard about it was this year, and it was right after Carr's contract. Then your favorite guy, Michael Silver, reported that Penn first asked about this last year. Now you basically have a standoff. A lot of guys believe Penn's just kind of old, so he's just kind of waiting for training camp to move along, and he'll come back, and everything will be fine. But it doesn't make the Raiders look good. It's a little black eye against the Raiders. Secondly, this week, you have the Conley deal, and a great article was written by Sean Hildebrandt called Shindig, Controversy Splinters, Raiders, and the Media. You can find that on RaiderRamble.com. Again, it was written by Sean Hildebrandt called Shindig, Controversy Splinters, the Raiders, and the Media. McKenzie came out and stated that Conley has shin splints, right?
Which is why he's not participating in training camp.
Which is why he's not. Yes, exactly.
He stayed out for the mini camp because of the allegations. And then they put him on the unable to perform list, and that's why he hasn't been at camp.
And then he comes out and he tweets, "Now I got shin splints, LOL." That just doesn't look good, right? And so then he quickly deleted the tweets, right? Then he quickly deletes them. So now you have these 2 things starting to become a distraction. On top of that, you have last night during the game, Lynch sitting down during the anthem. Now, we're not going to get too much in the weeds on this. We don't feel that's our job in this, but we do want to say a couple things about Lynch sitting for the anthem. First of all, we have to look at what the real issue is here. The NFL doesn't require or didn't require players to stand or to be present for the national anthem until after 2009. Before then, it was you can do what you want. But a couple years ago, a report came out that the Department of Defense and the National Guard were paying the NFL large amounts of money to present themselves more patriotic. In fact, the Department of Defense paid $53 million on marketing and advertising contracts to all of the sports organizations in the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL, NBA, and Major League Soccer between 2012 and 2015. Essentially paying for patriotism, which Senator McCain out of Arizona made a big deal about and actually wrote about it and saying we're paying for patriotism. So now when a player doesn't stand for the national anthem, it's almost a money issue with the NFL because it makes it look bad.
Well, they're almost about it, though, right? Just like we always say in the NFL, you want to know why something happens? Follow the money.
Follow the money. And so real quick, to touch on this, social media has been in an uproar about it, depending on which side you fall on. And simply I'll say this. When apathy is more prevalent than empathy, we all suffer. When you fail to see somebody else's point of view, we suffer, right? Covey wrote a book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the habits was seek first to understand before you seek to be understood. And we don't do that well in our society today, and it certainly doesn't happen on social media. And that's a shame. When there's more apathy than empathy, we all lose. Think about a husband and wife who are in conflict. If you keep fighting, the problem never resolves itself. But one person steps up and says, you know what? I love you. I don't want this to happen no more. Let's resolve the issue. And then they seek to understand where the other person is coming from. And at the end of the day, all we can do, and this might sound a little Pollyanna, but it comes down to love, right? It's like we all have faith in something, right? We have hope in certain things, but really it's love that propels everyone forward. And the stuff going on right now in Virginia, it's hideous. But yet everybody's going to be all upset about what Lynch did, and they're going to say it's anti-patriotism, but really is it? Or is the definition of patriotism being able to do what you want because we are free to do so? So simply, and I want to move on from it. I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but it comes down to love. Love each other. Love your fellow brother and sister, and seek to understand their position before we jump and come at them. So all this to say, Murph, you got the Conley deal, you have the Penn stuff, you have the Lynch stuff now. Do the Raiders have a PR problem? Right? We spent all the offseason saying, oh man, this is it. We were 12-4 and Carr gets hurt and that would have been our year and all this hype, and Lynch signs with the team and we get Patterson and we get these cool draft picks and Conley's cleared and everything's freaking rainbows and roses, right? We're farting freaking rainbows and roses. Well, now some stuff's happening, right? Conley contradicting Reggie, Penn holding out, Lynch, and what Del Rio said is, oh, Lynch always does it. And then freaking Pro Football posts pictures of Lynch standing during Seattle and stuff, and so like what's going on? Like, Sean Smith stinks yesterday. Like, do the Raiders have a PR problem? What do you think, Murph?
Yeah, I think they do. I think the part that is interesting to me as a Raider fan is that this is not new territory for us. We've had PR issues for a long time, right? Like, anybody remember Al Davis's overhead and referring to his head coach at the time as Lance, right? And when he fired him, like, we've had, read Amy Trask's book or, listen to her speak or read her tweets. I mean, she was in crisis management mode all the time when it came to the latter part of Al's life. And even really, frankly, prior to that, we celebrate Al as a maverick and as a trendsetter and a guy that continued to work against the norm. And while a lot of times that, resulted in some amazing accomplishments and some amazing, things, some unprecedented things, whether it be, hiring minority coaches or, taking the stands that he did for the team back when, that they were being held out of certain hotels and, Al Davis would make a move and refuse to play in certain cities and hiring women and just all the amazing things that Al did. That was the positive side of it, but there was also a negative side to Al, and all that fighting the league and the suing and the, just kind of the FU to the league and the FU to, a lot of organizational involvement that resulted in a PR nightmare a lot of times. So the difference now, though, for us as fans is that it was a very controlled environment before. Now, that doesn't mean that it was always, really organized and it seemed chaotic at times, but it was still a controlled message because it was Al, because it started and was communicated through and stopped with one guy, where now it's not that way. So to me, what I think is so different for us as fans is that we have these issues come up and Jack doesn't know what Marshawn his intents are. Reggie doesn't know or is miscommunicated what Conley's situation is, right? Reggie doesn't know or didn't communicate what Penn's issue was. So, or wasn't invested enough or involved enough to know that there was this bubbling issue and so those are the things that we've never had those before because Al knew. Now, whether you always agreed with what he did, whether it was the most constructive thing for the team or whatever, you can debate all those things. But at the end of it, Al knew. He knew everything that was going on with his players, with his staff, with his, through negotiations. He knew all that. And now we don't have that. So if anything, yes, I would say that's a PR issue. But here's what I do take solace in the fact of is that the players don't seem to be impacted as much as the media is. They're commenting and their analysis of it, and then our reactions as fans. Okay, so you have this thing with Marshawn last night, but then if you watch the game, him and Carr are, arm in arm, yucking it up on the sideline. Like, there's no, tension there between those guys. There's no tension there between the players. And if there's no tension there between the players, then what the hell do we got to get all worked up for as fans, right? And then same thing with Del Rio. He was dismissive of it, and he's going to move on. They have other things that they're focused on, and this whole idea of a, quote, distraction, I think is way overblown because they're focused on playing football and winning football games. That's what they're into. Now, as far as the front office side of it, the Reggie stuff with Conley and with Penn, was that Conley kind of shooting off at the hip a little bit? And, was Reggie intentionally keeping him out because he wanted to wait till this completely got put to bed? And instead of saying that and taking the PR hit that, Reggie's not quite sure what's going to happen. Maybe he didn't study up. Maybe he isn't as confident. You're right. Think about how that story would go. Reggie McKenzie is keeping Gary and Conley out of camp. Well, then the story is Reggie doesn't know as much as he thought he did. He's not as confident as he says. So instead, What does he do? He says that the kid's got shin splints. Well, Conley should have somehow had that communicated to him so that he could play ball, right? But instead, he finds out, wait, I don't have shin splints, and speaks out about it, which is a rookie move. Don't speak out against the family, right? We're Italian. We know this stuff works. Mm-hmm. He shouldn't have done that, right? He shouldn't have done that. He should have kept his mouth shut. Instead of going to Twitter, instead dial a phone number and ask Reg what's up. That's what you want to do, right? So, and then the last part of it is the Penn thing. And the Penn thing, man, I think that Reggie probably just got kind of blindsided by this thing. I think that Michael Silver is full of crap as far as it being a long-term or a deep-seated thing that's been going on a long time. I think that Penn saw the money that was getting thrown around. He wanted a piece of that pie. He knows that he's a top 10 performer and he wants to get paid like one. Does his timing work? No, his timing sucks. And all the timing of all of these things, frankly, sucks because we do have so many good things that are on the horizon. But that said, I think that Penn is, that wasn't like a really manageable thing. I think this is something him kind of acting on his own. So all that said, and I'm about 10 times out of breath, and I know you're ready for me to stop talking, and I will. But I think that it's
I'm seeking to understand you first.
All right, good. Thank you for that. But that said, I think that this is off-season / now preseason type stories that this all goes away when you start playing football in Tennessee. Like that, this stuff becomes less and less. And, we saw with an anthem thing, Michael Bennett sat out tonight. Like, if we start seeing other players do this, then it gets diluted, right? We've already seen it get diluted because it started with Kaepernick, right? So it's already becoming, it will become less and less of a story as we go on. As soon as Penn signs, that goes away. And as soon as Conley figures out kind of what his role is in this thing, especially coming off of the allegations he had, then that thing's going to go away too. So this hopefully will be short-lived. And now I will sit back and stop talking.
I agree. I think it's there's that old story of the fishermen who go to Alaska to fish. and they get snowed in, and they all end up fighting with each other because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And all these guys, we all like them and follow them because we like football. And we're not there. If they do anything else outside of that, it's like, just play football. I just want to watch you play football. That's what I'm looking for and stuff like that. So, again, faith, hope, and love, man. At the end of it, it's love.
You're listening to Raiders Fan Radio with Sonny and Murf, a podcast by Raiders fans for Raiders fans.
All right, Murph, you thought you were done talking, but now we get to venture to everybody's favorite black hole. Now, some of you like certain black holes, and some of you like other black holes. But here at Raiders Fan Radio, there's only one black hole that we love, and that's Murph's black hole of the internet. Take it away, Murph.
Murph's black hole of the internet.
A journey that begins where everything ends.
You know, Sonny, first off, I'm a little lightheaded because I talked so long on that last one. Man, now I got to clock back in again here. This will be interesting. All right, so I caught a little bit of grief this last week, and I love our listeners. I love the feedback that we get. I love the passion of Raider Nation, and we, as we say all the time, we're not analysts, we're not pros, and we are just a couple of fans that like to talk about the Oakland Raiders. Now, we are certainly like to think we're well-informed fans, and that's, you know, hopefully why part of the reason why you guys at least like to listen to our show. But we're certainly far from perfect when it comes to the information that we have at hand. So I made a comment on last week's show about Plunkett, and in reference to him being considered as a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And you asked me the question why I thought Jim wasn't held in that high regard to be considered by the voters to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And my response was I felt it was because he came in relief so many times, and especially in the season that they won the Super Bowl when he came in relief of Dan Pastorini. Now, we had a listener message us on Facebook and explain that he was alive when that season happened, and Dan Pastorini was not playing well, and he got hurt, and Plunkett came in, and Raider Nation celebrated. So it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, that maybe the way that I construed it. So I made that statement, and I was incorrect. In my mind, I was thinking of the year he came in relief of Mark Wilson. That was the second Super Bowl run. That wasn't the year of Dan Pastorini. That was the second time. But that said, still, even that year, even though Mark Wilson had a couple of decent games, Plunkett came back in and ended up being the starter for the rest of the year, took them to the Super Bowl, and they won. So here's where we get to Murph's Black Hole of the Internet. I started thinking about, really in depth, why Jim Plunkett should or should not be considered for the Hall of Fame. And I've got some things that I came up with that I'd like to review with you all. And let me say this, preface this on the front end. We love Jim Plunkett. Sonny and I had the good fortune of meeting him at a Raider game one time. And if you look at the picture that's taken,
you're like dumbfounded, dude.
Dumbfounded. There is no mistaking the reverence that we had for Jim Plunkett in that moment. And if so much so that the look on my face is that like I'm standing next to a deity or something. I'm just completely dumbfounded, like you said. And then, but the best was that Sonny, after he took a picture with us, told him, thank you for your service, sir. And Plunkett looked over at him and went, I wasn't in the military, but let's get going. It was one of the funniest things. It was amazing. But so we love Plunkett, okay? And I love Jim Plunkett. So please don't take anything of what I'm going to say as a
You better not be speaking against Plunkett right now, bro. You did.
I'm not going to speak against him, but I do want to address fairly why he's not getting a deep consideration for going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So the Raiders are known for reclamation projects, and none of their players in their history epitomized this more so than what Jim Plunkett does or did, right? There's everybody from Ted Hendricks to, heck, you can say Jerry Rice. There's a lot of guys that were considered reclamation projects that were brought in later in their careers to continue to prove themselves and to perform. And a lot of them had lack of success at their prior stops to going to the Raiders. And this is where Plunkett, again, epitomizes that reclamation, is that he did terrible in his early part of his career. Okay, we know that he was a stud at Stanford and he's a San Jose guy and everything. But when he got to the Patriots, he stunk. And when he got to the Niners, next stop after that, he stunk. So from 71 to 77, he really wasn't all that great. So he lands with the Raiders in 79, gets his first full season playing in 80, and then plays all the way through to 1986. So we're talking about, about a 7-year window there where he developed most of his stats. Okay. Now he won 2 Super Bowl championships in there, but my black hole of the internet, my analysis on this says, and again, I could always defer to the guys that were alive when all this stuff happened. I was a kid. So all I can do is go off of what my memories were of that as a kid, and then what the numbers tell us. And the numbers tell us that the Raiders weren't winning football games because of Jim Plunkett. Okay. Then when you look at his career with the Raiders, it's an 8-year span, but it's really about 7 years. He played, Sonny, in 57 games that he started in, and he had a 56% completion percentage. He threw 80 touchdowns and 81 interceptions. Okay. For 12,000 yards. Okay. He never threw for more than 3,000 yards. He got close once. In 1983, he threw for 2,900, and that year he had a 60% completion percentage, and that was one of the few years that he actually had more touchdowns than interceptions. But that was a very, very small percentage of what his career looked like. So sadly, he doesn't have the kind of career to back up Hall of Fame numbers. And so let's look at another reclamation project to kind of contrast. All right, the next, and I got 2 of them for you. One is, it's a freaking 49er, and look, don't kill me for this, but I was trying to think of guys that were, again, followed this pattern in their career, and I'm talking about one is Steve Young. And so when we look at Steve Young, and then we are going to look at a Raider, we're going to look at Rich Gannon, because he was another reclamation project. To give you an idea and contrast the numbers between Gannon, Plunkett, and Steve Young, who is in the Hall of Fame, okay, you start to see where the gap widens out, all right? So the guy that's in the Hall of Fame, Steve Young, in a 13-year career with the Niners, all right, started in 124 games, 65% completion percentage, 221 touchdowns, and only 86 interceptions. His completion percentage was upwards of 70 a lot of years, including 94, where it was 70. All right. And when you look at the amount of yards he was throwing for, always over 3,000 yards, and twice he threw for more than 4,000 yards. All right. Those are Hall of Fame numbers. Okay. Now, to look at the Raiders side of it also, to contrast Rich Gannon, who highly outperformed Jim Plunkett. And if it wasn't for Rich Gannon having such a short career, frankly, I think he would have been a Hall of Famer. Of course, he was an NFL MVP. When you look at his career with the Raiders in 6 years, in 74 games, 62% completion percentage, 114 touchdowns, and only 50 interceptions, always throwing for more than 3,000 yards, really getting close to 4,000 2 times. And then, of course, in 2002, he threw for 4,600 yards with 26 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. That is what Hall of Fame numbers are. And sadly, it's not Jim Plunkett. And so that concludes this Black Hole of the Internet. And I'm sorry, Jim, and I wish it were different, but that's what we got.
Good job, Murph. Good research. If you ever went back to college, you'd probably do good on your research papers. I'm going to say one statement to shatter everything you just said.
Please do.
Two-time Super Bowl champion. Is Dan Marino? I mean, we love Dan Marino.
Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah,
we love him.
His numbers handy, but they would destroy.
Is he worthy of the Hall of Fame simply because of his number? I mean, we know he's in, but it's Dan Marino, is he Hall of Fame potential simply because of his number? We all joked about Peyton Manning. You're the best regular season quarterback of all time. I guess what I have a problem with when it comes to Plunkett. And you know, we all know his numbers suck, but he won games. Like he managed to get the job done, and he won 2 freaking Super Bowls. You know, and so I guess that's where my questions come up is, no, he's not worthy of the Hall of Fame based on his numbers, but I believe he is worthy of the Hall of Fame based on his ability to win games, and he won 2 Super Bowls. Like, that's just kind of, that's crazy to me, you know? You know, Trent Dilfer, is he ever going to be in the Hall of Fame? I hope not. I don't think he deserves to be. He's not in the Hall of Fame, you know? He won a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, but he won a Super Bowl because of the Ravens' defense. And when you look at the Raiders back then, the Raiders were winning football games. It wasn't because of Jim Plunkett. It was because of, if you want to say the running game, sure. But if you look at the defense that they had back in those days,
he did enough.
Matt Millen and Lyle Alzado and Lester Hayes and Mike Haynes. And I mean, you're talking about some monster defensive players. And then you got plays like in the Super Bowl where Jack Squirek picks off the pass and runs it in for the end zone, and they're blocking kicks, and they're, you know what I mean? Like, that was what was winning the game. It wasn't Jim Plunkett. It was, I mean, look at Rod Martin intercepted Jaworski, 3 times in that Super Bowl? Like, I mean, that didn't have anything to do with Plunkett. And again, I'm an apologist, man, and I feel really bad even talking about this because, I mean, you know, man, I love our Raiders and I love Jim Plunkett. But when I think if we really want to be honest with ourselves as fans, then I don't think he's the guy that, here's what I do want to say though. If we're going to rally around players that or people in the Raiders organization that should be in the Hall of Fame, I think there's some better candidates. And maybe that's what I'll leave it at, is that Tom Flores deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
there are very few coaches that win 2 Super Bowls, as we covered last week. He's one. And then now, you know what? As I hear the Cliff Branch stuff start to come up and you really start to dig into Cliff Branch, not only does that man have 3 rings, but he's got numbers too, as you covered so well last week. So those are the kind of things that, you know, that's maybe what we're talking about. And then the third one is Amy Trask. I mean, because you're talking about groundbreaking, doing things that were completely unprecedented in the league. When somebody does that, I think that's Hall of Fame worthy. So I don't know if this is so much a shot at Jim or just a look, if we're going to have a movement per se to push for somebody Raider affiliated to be considered for the Hall of Fame, maybe there's 3 other people that we should lock into instead over Jim. So we're going to get emails on this one.
That's okay. Hey, we got to be objective here, you know? I think the Plunkett thing is a great debate. I mean, there's definitely arguments on both sides for him to be in and for him to be not in. You know what I'm saying? So I think, I don't know. I think it's still up in the air. I think the fact that he won 2 Super Bowls, you know, it's different than Brad Johnson with Tampa Bay and Dilfer with the Ravens. Like, Plunkett won 2 at a time when the team was in great turmoil. And I don't care, you know, if you're the worst quarterback ever, you still have the ball in your hands more than anybody else. And so, you know, he still won twice and played well enough to win. So, but I agree, though, his numbers are horrible. But you put a guy in like Marino, who his numbers were amazing but never won a Super Bowl. I think the problem is there's no precedent. There's no or maybe precedent's a bad word. There's no criteria for the Hall of Fame, right? There's no if you do X, Y, and Z, you're in. It's just simply seemingly at random, you know. Kurt Warner and that Rams team, you could have put Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer on that team and they would have won, right? Was it really Warner or was it that team that he had, you know? Same thing with Cardinals. That was a great team. He had Bolden, Fitzgerald. Like, those were studs. So I wish there was just a better criteria.
Passer. I don't know. Like that. See, that's where I get really caught up, is that when you start talking about the eye test, when you watched Kurt Warner back in those days of The Greatest Show on Turf versus Jim, I mean, Kurt Warner threw a pretty football, man. I mean, he would throw them deep and accurate, and Plunkett threw a freaking, you know, I remember my Uncle Murph used to call him the wounded ducks. You know what I mean? He'd be like, you know, he'd go, I go into cardiac arrest every time Plunkett drops back to throw, because it's like you never know where it's going to go. You know, and that was one of the most diehard Raider fans on the planet telling me that as a kid, you know, that he would get so nervous when Plunkett would drop back to pass. I don't think anybody ever felt like that when Kurt Warner would drop back. You knew that he was going to drop a dime somewhere, you know. So I don't know, but I'm with you. I think you make a great point, and that's something I hadn't thought about, was that if you're going to put somebody based solely on numbers, should you then, who has numbers but doesn't have championships, is it also fair then to put in somebody that has championships and no numbers? You know, yeah, and one championship, no, because of the Brad Johnson, Trent Dilfer side of it. But, you know, Plunkett, multiple-time winner. I mean, he's the only one. So, I mean, as far as the starter goes, I think there's other guys that have 2 Super Bowls, but not as starters, you know, because, like, you know, what Phil Simms has got. Well, is Phil in? Phil's in, right? Yeah. Phil's in.
Simms? Should be.
Yeah, he's in. But, you know, Hostetler won that one. Phil didn't win that second Super Bowl. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Plunkett's the only guy. So I don't know, man. It's a funky topic. It's a real funky topic.
I think what Raiders fans can't argue, and if you are, you're just not looking at it objectively, is his numbers suck. That's
he threw more interceptions than touchdowns in the postseason as well.
Yeah.
You know
his numbers stink, but he's a 2-time winner, and so it's a great debate. And I don't know, until it gets in, it'll always be debated. You know, it'll always be something. So, you know. Hey,
I feel like, you know, we got Kenny. I feel like I'm not picky right now on quarterbacks either. And I hate that maybe that's working against him a little bit too. Is that like Snake was the oversight, you know, the glaring oversight. Plunkett maybe not as much. So he might be victim to that too, that I'm sure I'm not the only one that was like, all right, we got our guy. Kenny was our guy. As much as we love Jim, Kenny was our man.
Yep. Kenny's our guy. All right, moving on.
Hey, so this is Uncle Mosh, and apparently all you got to do to host a podcast is have a microphone, a garage, and a couple of Derek Carr jerseys. Ha! These two did it. You're listening to Raiders Fan Radio with Sonny and Murf.
I feel like I'm in like an 80s cop movie or something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, Starsky, get over here. All right, Murph, let's talk about the Tennessee game. We've talked about it a lot off air, but we haven't talked about it a lot on air, so we need to address that here. So, week 1, what is that, September 9th, 10th? When's that game? September 9th,
I believe it's the 9th, yes.
Week 1, Raiders Fan Radio will be live.
10th.
September 10th.
10th.
We'll be live at the Tennessee Titans game. I believe we're going to post up in Lot N. That's apparently where the big Raiders get-together is going to take place. So we'll have a table set up. We'll have our flags flying. We'll have our banner. I believe we're going to have T-shirts for sale for $10 a pop. And we want to do live interviews. So we're inviting you, the listener, and the fan and fellow Raider Titan game attendee, stop by. We're going to be doing 2 things. One, we're going to be recording our podcast for a week at that game. So when the regular season comes, me and Murph are going to do a couple of things. One, after the games on Sundays and Mondays, whenever the games are, we'll be doing a live Facebook kind of let's talk about it, instant reaction show. And then on Tuesdays of that week, we'll record our actual podcast for the more calm reaction to the game, and then looking forward to the next game. So that podcast will release on Wednesdays. So you'll kind of be getting double dose during the season. But for the Tennessee Titans game, what we want to do is give you, the listener who can't go to that game, we want to give you the experience like you're at that game. So we're going to embed ourselves in the heart of the Raider Nation tailgate at the game, which is taking place in Lot N, and we want to do interviews with whoever. We don't care if you're a nobody or somebody. Come on by, give us an interview. We'll talk to you. We'll put your name out there, and going to be a great time. We'll also be walking around, doing interviews, and just partaking in all the stuff. Murph is a resident of Tennessee out there, so we're going to get there bright and early and set up, and it's going to be awesome, man. We're going to be Facebook Live in the event as well. We're bringing our bald-headed ginger Bronco cousin with us, and he has a face that's great to be behind the camera. And so he'll be behind the camera filming us on the camera.
The guy that should be behind the camera filming two other guys that should be behind the camera.
Yes.
Two faces made for radio or podcasting in our case.
Yes, exactly. So it's going to be fun. And, if you got some great dishes, bring the food. Me and Murph love to eat. And so bring the food on by. It's just going to be a great time, Murph. I'm super stoked about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be, as you mentioned, right in the heart of Raider Nation and the official booster clubs and, Raider Nation tailgate there. That's Lot N. So if you're going to get a parking pass, that's the one to get. If not, then just like Sonny said, swing on by and walk through, and you won't be able to miss us. We'll have our flags flying high. And, it's going to be cool, man. Tennessee is a great place to go to an away game. The Titans fans are pretty gracious. They're fun. They're accommodating. They'll give us a little bit of heck. They'll rib us some, but it's always good natured. So I've always enjoyed seeing Raider games on the road there. This, I think, will be my 5th Titan Raider game. Actually more than that. It might be 6. Anyways, whatever it is, but they've always been great. Best one was when my wife and I went on our first date. We went to a Titans Raider game. You can believe that.
There you go.
I know, right? There you go. Yeah. So, awesome. But anyways, yes, good stuff though. So we look forward to it. Look forward to talking to everybody. I mean, we're gonna have a couple guests that we know are gonna stop by. Jim Ziebach from Great Lakes Booster Club, Scott Winter of the Winter Report, we know is gonna stop by. But yes, we will be there for, I don't know, we'll probably do, I don't know how long of a show we'll do, but long enough to have somebody else drop by too, right?
Yeah, we'll be there for a few hours easily. A few hours for sure.
Excellent.
It's gonna be awesome. Gonna be a lot of fun. All right, Murph. Also, because it's Madden season, I just set up a Raiders fan radio community on the Xbox One to play Madden in. What we hope to do, and we know this is kind of getting it down there to the niche of you who play Madden on the Xbox One, is if you play, go join the community on Xbox One. The community is titled Raiders Fan Radio. What we want to do is set up tournaments and maybe some online games and stuff like that during the season, and maybe throw out some prize packs as well from deadpiratesports.com. And so, we love to play Madden. We like to play football, not just, 4 verticals left and right, all that kind of stuff. So if you like to play football, you like to play Madden on the Xbox One, join the community, Raiders Fan Radio on the Xbox One, and it'll be awesome. All right, and that's the show for this week. Encourage everybody to, reside in faith, hope, and love. Online social media fighting never solves anything. Seek to understand another person's point of view before you force your own upon them. We're excited. Raiders season is upon us. Week 1 of the preseason has already happened. More games will be happening. Next week we take on the Rams, and we got to continue to see this young team gel together. And man, it's good times. And until next week, it's Raider Nation, wherever, forever.